Hello everyone. Welcome to this channel. Today I'm going to share a horror story that will make your skin crawl. A terrifying tragedy once occurred in an old sugar factory in East Java, a place that is now abandoned but still holds mysteries and unimaginable horrors. Are you ready to hear this story until the end? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe so you don't miss more scary stories, and share it with your brave friends. Now let's begin. I have never told this story before. Even now, as I write these words, my hands are trembling. But someone needs to know the truth about what happened in that old sugar factory in East Java. It was not just an abandoned building. It was a grave. A monument to the horrors that once took place there. The history of the sugar factory. The factory was built during the Dutch colonial era, a massive structure of steel and brick that stood like a fortress in the middle of vast sugarcane fields. It was the heart of the local economy, employing hundreds of workers who toiled day and night to process sugar shipped across the world. Generations depended on it, and for many, it was the only life they knew. But the factory also had a dark side. It was said that in the early 1900s, Dutch overseers used brutal methods to keep workers in line. Those who disobeyed or failed to meet quotas were punished harshly, sometimes disappearing without a trace. Rumors spread that the factory was built on sacred land, that an ancient spirit dwelled beneath it, and that blood had to be spilled to keep the machines running. The sacrifice. Whispers of sacrifice were dismissed as mere superstition, but those who worked in the factory knew better. The machines would sometimes stop without reason, and when they did, accidents were sure to follow. A worker would lose a hand, an arm, or worse, be dragged into the gears and crushed. The overseers called it misfortune. The workers called it the blood price. Then came the most horrifying tragedy. On a humid night in 1932, the machines suddenly stopped working. A Dutch foreman named Van der Meer was furious. He ordered the workers to fix them, but nothing worked. The gears refused to turn, as if something unseen was holding them still. Hours passed, and panic began to spread. Production was halted, and the factory could not afford to lose a single night of work. That was when Van der Meer made the decision that would curse the factory forever. He ordered a worker, an old Javanese man who had worked in the factory since childhood, to be thrown into the gears. The workers protested, but the overseers were armed. The old man did not resist. He simply bowed his head, whispered a prayer, and stepped forward. As his body was consumed by the machine, the gears immediately started turning again. The factory resumed operations, and Van der Meer smiled. The workers wept, but no one dared to speak of what had happened. And so the cycle began. Each time the machines stopped, a worker was chosen. Over the years, dozens, perhaps hundreds, were sacrificed to keep the sugar flowing. The curse awakens. The factory continued to operate for years, surviving wars, independence, and modernization. But the spirits of those who had been sacrificed did not rest. In 1987, a fire broke out in the refinery section of the factory. The flames spread quickly, consuming everything in their path. The workers tried to escape, but the doors had been locked from the outside. A cruel measure to prevent theft. More than 50 people burned to death that night. Their screams echoed through the fields, carried by the wind. The factory was shut down after the incident, deemed too dangerous to operate. The land was abandoned, and the machines were left to rust. Nature reclaimed what had been taken, and for years silence engulfed the ruins. Until I came. The night I saw them, I was still a university student when I first heard about the factory. My friends and I, hungry for adventure, decided to visit it one night. We ignored the warnings from the locals, laughing at their superstitions. Just ghost stories, we said. Nothing more. How wrong we were. As soon as we entered the factory grounds, the air felt heavy, filled with the scent of burnt sugar and something else, something rotten. The walls were covered in soot, the machines frozen in time, rusted and broken. We explored cautiously, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. Then we heard it, a low grinding sound. It was the gears. The machines that had been silent for decades had begun to move. We froze, watching in horror as the rusted gears turned. The conveyor belts trembled to life. Whispers rose from the shadows, a chorus of overlapping voices, speaking in Javanese, Dutch, and something older, something inhuman. I turned to run, but my legs wouldn't move. A shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, an old man with empty eyes and charred skin. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Only a scream, a long, piercing wail that filled my ears and shattered my sanity. Then I saw them. The workers, their bodies broken and mangled, crawling toward us, their hands outstretched, their mouths moving soundlessly. My friends screamed. One of them ran, but he never made it to the exit. The heavy steel door slammed shut on its own, trapping us inside. Hand grabbed my arm. It was cold, wet, and covered in something sticky. I turned, and found myself face to face with Vandermeer. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was the feeling of being pulled into the machine, into the darkness. Closing. And that is the terrifying story of the old sugar factory in East Java. Do you believe in the curse that still lingers to this day? Or is this just a legend passed down through generations? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. See you in the next video. If you dare, face screaming fear fire.